Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks a lot for coming along. First of all, I'd like to thank Robert Gordons for providing facilities for this evening. It's the first time I've actually been in this campus, in this building. Looks like we've done a pretty good job. And I'd also like to thank folks at the British Computer Society as well for organising the event this evening. So this evening's talk is going to last for probably about half an hour maximum. Depends on the sort of questions that we get and all the rest of it. For you folks to get the most out of this, please ask questions throughout. You can interrupt at any time. There's no such thing as a silly question. Sometimes a silly answer, but no such thing as a silly question. So just feel free to ask. There will be a bit of a Q&A session at the end as well if you want. So let's get going. You'll notice by this PowerPoint presentation that I get no points for my PowerPoint skills whatsoever. So I tend to use quite a lot of clip art, so please forgive me for that. So tonight's talk is aimed at people that are probably still studying at university and are thinking about, or getting to that stage where they're thinking about applying for their first real IT job, or people that are very early on in their IT careers. Okay, so this isn't going to be a talk about technologies and how to get a job. This is to give you some hints and tips about how to manage your career once you've actually got a job. Yeah, which tends to be the sort of thing you don't actually find in the books and gets taught on courses. So part of the preparation for this, I actually looked up the. Come on in. Hi. I actually looked up the definition of career, and there was two pretty good definitions I came across. So the first one was an occupation undertaken for a significant period of a person's life and with opportunities for progress. That sounds good. And the second one is move swiftly and in an uncontrollable way. Now I must admit some of my career has been the second definition much more than the first definition, but hopefully yours is going to be much more the first definition. So as is customary in these sorts of things, I need to speak a little bit about myself, just to give you an understanding of where I'm coming from and the sort of career that I've had. So I started off doing an HND in computer studies back in the day when this was RGIT, not RGU, so a long time ago. And during my last summer on that course, I was lucky enough to get a job at Robertson Research. They were a geological consultancy company based in Dice, so it was great. Somebody was off sick and they needed somebody to fill in and basically clean the electrostatic plotters. If you see an old films, you quite often see the mag tape reels going backwards and forwards as they're reading data off of them. Well, I was the guy that put the mag tape reels onto the machine and got the computers to read the data from it. And basically helping the users of the systems do basic stuff, like how to use their editors and how to manipulate their data a lot more easily. So it was great fun. And again, fortunately for me, the person that was off sick decided to jack the job in, and they offered the job to me. So it was a 2.5-year course. It was the last ever of the 2.5-year HND courses. So they only had a few months to wait, and I could come back. So that was a great start. That was really good. So the job title there was Systems Controller / Programmer. So they were one of these companies that like fancy job titles. But basically, I was like a computer operator that did a bit of programming on the side. So that was good. So next, I went to a pretty dodgy company. I can tell you the name because it doesn't exist anymore. It was called Exchequer Software for Industry Limited or something. And guy wasn't paying my tax and all sorts of things. It was an absolute horror story. So I left there pretty quickly after a couple of months. And I then joined Marathon Oil as a computer analyst in Marathon Oil. And that's where I was kind of introduced to the real-time data acquisition side of things, which is partly what I do today. And it was also a great introduction to the oil industry. So with that company, it was the first time I'd ever gone offshore, first time in a helicopter. And it is unbelievable. If you ever get the chance to go offshore, please take it. They're a fantastic feats of engineering. Huge superstructures in the middle of the North Sea, terrible environment, and these things are standing and they're pumping oil and gas all over the place. So it really is quite amazing. And it's quite an exciting industry to actually work in. So we're in Aberdeen. Oil industries in the back of everybody's mind here. It's a pretty dominant kind of industry here, but it is actually a fantastic industry to be part of. So then after that, probably in one of the rare occasions of me actually changing jobs deliberately in order to try and enhance my career, I moved to a software house called Aquadata. So they did hydrocarbon accounting, allocation systems, and also metering supervisory computers, which kind of tied on as a nice kind of extension to the work I'd done at Marathon on the real-time data acquisition side of things. But it also meant that I actually did some real coding. Quite often, when you work for the operators, you tend to be coordinating other companies that are actually doing the development work, so you tend to get a lot of hands-on development work yourself. And I kind of wanted that as part of my CV. So Aquadata was a good option for me there. So I was a software engineer there, and then whilst I was there, I also got promoted and I was a project coordinator. I must be quite a controlling kind of individual, because I quite often end up being put in charge of things. And so it could be I'm technically incompetent, or it could be that I'm good at managing people. I don't know, but I presume it's because I'm technically incompetent, actually. So then from Aquadata, I moved to Hess, another oil company. And again, got involved in quite a number of different types of projects there, working for different groups within that organisation. So facilities engineering, the various different assets, health and safety. Started off there as actually as a contractor, which is great fun, good money in that. And then became staff there and became a business analyst. And again, that was quite an interesting experience as well, changing from somebody that was fixing bugs in code and developing new bits of software to somebody that was talking much more with the business, trying to find out business processes, try to understand them, and how IT systems can actually help improve the process, streamline it, and help the business. Whilst all this was going on, I mentioned earlier I had an HND in computer studies, so a lot of people that I work with had honours degrees and masters, etc. So I thought, well, there must be something in this degree lark. So I actually did a BSc through the Open University, and that was a very interesting experience to go through. Actually, it taught me quite a lot, and it was well worthwhile. It was a lot of hard work. So Hess unfortunately decided to downsize their Aberdeen office. I think we went from something like 350 people down to 45. We went from an IT department of 35 down to 1, and I wasn't the one. So myself and quite a number of our colleagues got made redundant, and it was at that point I decided that I quite fancied running my own company. So myself and a colleague, we started up a company called Endarg, and we specialised in health and safety software. And about 3.5 years into that, we sold that company to a Norwegian organisation, and I decided I wanted to try it again, and I started up what is today Aventa Systems, and that was 7.5 years ago. So I've been quite a few different jobs, gone from computer operator, application support and development, business analysis, project management. I've been an account manager within Hess as well, looking after various different departments, a service delivery manager, I suppose we get called these days. And now I'm the managing director of Aventa Systems. And that's more sales and marketing and finance than it is about technology. So it's been quite a varied kind of career so far. But that's enough about me now. So the whole point of tonight's exercise is to try and give you some hints and tips so that you have a successful career. But what is success? Yeah. Now, if we asked everybody in this room what success was, we get a different answer from each individual. And at different times in your life, success is going to mean something different to you. But it is actually important to think about what it is that you actually want. Yeah? If you meander through life, career-wise, then chances are you're not going to achieve what you really want to achieve. You might have a lot of fun along the way, and maybe that is success for you, but it helps if you actually set yourself some objectives, some targets, and understand that, you know, if you do X, that helps to lead me to do Y, and that's where I want to be. So success is a very personal thing, and it changes along in time. But you need to ask, it's important that you ask yourself that question. You've also got to try and measure success as well. So some people will say money is the thing that drives them. Yeah. So you quite often hear that people equate financial reward with success. But I would actually like to give a word of caution, not because I'm an employer, but word of caution on that. If you're constantly chasing the money, then chances are the job satisfaction doesn't go along with it. So you can be quite well off, but totally miserable 8 hours a day. And you spend quite a lot of time at work. So it's trying to find that balance of doing something that you really enjoy and getting a reasonable financial reward for it. And if you're doing something you really enjoy, chances are you're going to be really good at it, because you're going to go that extra mile to learn more about it, be more involved, scratch beneath the surface, understand things better. So just be careful of that one. Work experience. I mentioned earlier that this isn't really a talk about how to get a job, but work experience, especially if you've got an industrial placement as part of your degree. So how many people here that are doing their degrees have got an industrial placement component? 1, 2, is that a little hand enough? 3, 4? Okay. For those of you that don't, I encourage you to try and get some summer work, even if it's just voluntary. Yeah? Now the reason for that is that the industrial placement or summer jobs are actually quite a safe way of getting good work experience. Yeah? The expectations of you is going to be much less than it will be in a year or 2 time when you actually graduate. Yeah? So you'll have much more opportunity to sit back and look at what's going on around about you, look at the interaction between people and how they act, how they treat each other, what's acceptable, what's not, what are people complaining about, etc. So it's a nice, safe environment. It's also good as well because it provides potentially a future employer with a long time to assess your capabilities, and you're part of their network within that organisation, and they're constantly thinking about, well, what else can I get that person to do, and what are you going to do when you come back. Office politics quite often gets mentioned. It's really it tends to be a big organisation kind of thing, but it's really worth actually defining my definition of what I think office politics is. So what I've written here is that office politics basically boils down to people manipulating other people or a given situation to their own benefit. Now that doesn't sound very positive, does it? But the reality is we all do that to a certain extent. Any of the older ones in the room that have got children will know that children do that as well, and we all do it from a very young age. And sometimes it's a good thing, but quite often it's actually quite a bad thing. And you've got to be wary of, especially working in a big organisation, the more politically orientated individuals and how best to deal with them. Being able to recognise the ones that are that. So they tend to be the ones that are interested in who's getting promoted, demoted, getting a sideways move within the organisation. They tend to spend more time with their superiors than their peers. They like to make sure that they contribute in meetings, especially when their superiors are actually in the meeting themselves. Even if it's just repeating what somebody else has said, that quite often happens actually. It's a real bugbear. They tend to take over quite a lot. and they quickly distance themselves from problems instead of getting in there and helping. Yeah? And you don't want to be that person. Yeah? The best way to kind of deal with these sorts of people is, I think, to stay positive, try and look for ways of helping the situation, and not getting on their bad side too much. So competition is the other thing. So within any organisation, there's competition. Now you're going to be working alongside people day in, day out. You're going to get really friendly with them because they're all nice people. The vast majority of people really are nice people, regardless of what you see on television. But when projects come up that you want to work on, or promotions come up, then the competition is actually probably your peer group, the people that you really like. And again, positivity actually goes an awful long way. It's very easy to fall into the trap of criticising others in order to advance yourself. You've got to be very clear about why it should be you, not why it shouldn't be somebody else. Yeah? So I would bit of caution on that one, and stay positive. Don't rubbish the competition. Competition comes in various different forms as well. Sometimes competition is somebody external to the organisation. It could be suppliers, it could be new recruits. Competition could be your boss even, sometimes. So, but it's good to be aware of who the competition is for the things that you want. Networking. If you were to look at a stereotypical computer person, yeah, then if you ask somebody in the street what a computer person is, they would tend to say they're quite introverted, quiet, bit of a loner, bit of a nerd, and all the rest of it. Not really a people person, right? That's the perception in the media of, not in particular, of a computer person. I find it quite infuriating as well. It's quite often in the news you find that somebody's an axe murderer or something. It's always, Joe Blogg's computer programmer, that sort of stuff. So, yeah. So, but the reality is, in order to be successful in your career, technical skills are very important, but also your people skills are just as important. In fact, I would say sometimes even more so. Yeah? You've got to be able to connect with individuals, both within the organisation and out with it. So, good with suppliers, good with your people, good with other people in the IT groups. Go on in. And also been able to deal with your line managers and all the rest of it. So you need to be able to interact properly with people. And building a strong network is actually very important to good career advancement and good career management. Yeah. You can be the best programmer on the planet, but if you're the man or woman that sits in the corner of the room, never speaks to anybody, you're never going to do anything else apart from be the coder in the corner. Yeah. So you need to be able to interact with people. That's very important. And what I've found is that people that are perfectly good at interacting with other individuals will still do things like send an email rather than pick up the phone and talk to people. I had an example fairly recently, actually, at my place, where we had an ongoing issue that I found out about. They'd been going on for about 3 months. Emails backwards and forwards every now and again to discuss some problem or other. In actual fact, all they had to do was pick up the phone, have a 10-minute conversation, and it was fixed. It sometimes is really as simple as that. So pick up the phone and talk to people. It's not scary. There's things like LinkedIn. How many people have heard of LinkedIn or have got an account on it? Okay, fair few. Good. So get yourself on something like LinkedIn. That's really good for keeping tabs on who you know, because you meet so many people as part of your working life. It's unbelievable. It's also really useful to find out if somebody's moved jobs as well, now working for a different company. It's sometimes good as well to showcase your work. It's a bit of a living, dynamic kind of CV. So keep it up to date. You know, just every now and again go in there and post something. It's quite a good tool as well, I think, if you've got some sort of, call it sort of thought leadership kind of piece. But if you've got an opinion on something, whether it's a piece of technology or it's new legislation that's come out, write about it and put it on sites like LinkedIn, and that helps kind of grow your credibility. So if you're applying for a job somewhere, then possibly that person has heard of you through the kind of blogging that you've done through sites like LinkedIn, so it's quite important as well. Also, it adds value to the company that you're currently working for, and you become kind of a good ambassador for your organisation, which also highlights how good you are and increases your chances for promotion. So that's really useful as well. There are some dangers with social media, I have to say. So if somebody is applying for a job for me, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to Google you. Yeah? And I'm going to find your Facebook pages or your Twitter accounts, and I'm going to have a little peek. And I want to see what sort of person you are. Yeah? So if your Facebook page is full of drunken nights out and debauchery, then you fit in. Fact, no, you'll probably have a lot of fun. But you can tell a little bit about a person by the sort of stuff you can find on the internet there. And the internet is an amazing tool, but it's also a pretty dangerous one as well. So I would caution the sort of pictures and things that you put on. Okay. I worked for Hess. The whole Aberdeen office at one point went, not at the same time, but we all went on a one-day employeeship seminar. And we all thought, what a load of rubbish. What have they spent an absolute fortune on? So they flew some consultant across, I think he was from Denmark, and we sat at Ardu House for a whole day talking about employeeship. But actually it turned out to be quite an interesting thing. The vast majority of it was common sense, right? But it did kind of make you ask the question, what does it take to be a good employee? Yeah? It's very easy to get into a sort of negative kind of frame of mind. It's very easy to criticise. Yeah? What's difficult and what's more beneficial is to be constructive and to actually think about the company as opposed to just you as an individual, and what is it that you're doing and how does it fit in with what the company needs to happen. So look at things like the company's core values. Does the company's core values actually match up with yours? It doesn't have to match up 100%, but it's quite important that what the company feels is important, you kind of feel is fairly important as well. Getting some idea as to what the strategy of the company is as well, that's quite important, and also what the business objectives are for that year, or that 6 months, that quarter, or whatever. Because then it helps you understand how what you do actually fits in with that and how you're actually contributing. And if you as an individual feel that you're contributing, then you're going to get more job satisfaction out of it. There's a reason why you're doing what you're doing. Yeah? So the employeeship thing was quite an interesting course to go on. Let's see. Yeah, we'll cover that. So the kind of last thing I wanted to touch on was learning. I think a lot of people think that once they've done their degrees or their masters or whatever that they're doing at university, that's it, great, I don't have to look at the books ever again. But the reality is, learning is a journey. It's a bit of a well-worn saying, but it's a truism. And we're always learning new things, especially in an industry like IT, where the technologies are changing. You're used to, in universities, using, I don't know how many technologies you use, but let's say half a dozen or so different technologies at any one point in time. And what you're going to find when you actually start working in an organisation is there a huge number of technologies that you're going to have to interact with. Different software products, different operating systems, different programming languages. So it's you're constantly learning, and even today, although I'm not doing any sort of IT technical work, there's quite a lot of podcasts and things that I subscribe to, and articles that I read on the web and so forth. So you'll get to find credible kind of sources of information, and that you've got to keep on keeping up with the latest technologies and things in order just to stay the same level. Really, it's very easy to kind of slip backwards. Everybody else kind of goes forward and leaves you behind. So learning is most definitely a journey, and your studying ain't over yet, I'm afraid. Sorry. So some conclusions here then. It's important to know where you want to go, and understanding that that decision is going to change. So right now, maybe success to you is just getting a job. Any job, don't care. Just get a job. Maybe that's success to you. But as soon as you've got a job, once you've been in it for a few weeks, a few months, success is going to mean something completely different to you then. So it's important to define success and think about it, and every now and again kind of review that. It's also important to understand that you're responsible for your career. Your boss isn't. The company that you work for isn't. You've got to take ownership of that, and you've got to make things happen. Quite often I find with organisations that I've worked in that you get employed to do a particular job role, but really the job role can change to kind of suit you. Yeah? And you can create opportunities within an organisation to do the sorts of stuff that you really want to do. Be a good employee, definitely, and make the system work for you. Don't try and fight against it. Try and make it better. But don't come up with good ideas every single minute of the day. You know, try and pace yourself. Network is pretty important as well, and learn to engage with people and pick up the phone, please. Don't just send emails. It's okay to have a conversation on the phone and follow up with an email, just so you've got a bit of an audit trail. That's fine. But email is far too easy to be misinterpreted, really. You lose quite a lot of information by not being able to see the person or talk to them. And your learning hasn't ended with the completion of your degree is the last thing there. So that's it. That's what I had.